I'm feeling a bit philosophical this morning. I'm feeling a bit philosophical because you do get these days where you go, what's it all about? What is it all about? What are we doing here? Why are we here, and why are we going through the trials and tribulations that we go through? Last night, I was running my bath and suddenly there was this sound of water coming from somewhere else. I thought, hello, what's going on here? And before I knew it, I realised that actually the water wasn't going into the bath as it was supposed to be going in. It was actually cascading down into the kitchen below. And I ran down and I thought, oh my goodness. And I put pots and pans and an old mop bucket underneath where it was coming through the ceiling. And I thought, blimey, this is a bit much. Oh, I wonder what it is. Maybe it's the old water tank. Suddenly I realised. I dashed upstairs, opened up the airing cupboard, and there was water pouring out like a blooming fountain. Oh, crikey. Oh, turn the water off, I thought. Rush back downstairs, turn the water off, and everything sort of slowly stopped, although obviously there was now a pool of water on the bathroom floor that was leaking through into the kitchen. Rearranged the buckets a bit. Oh, and this was like 10 o'clock at night, last night. And you think, oh, now what? So fortunately, there's a little hatch and I've got a step ladder, and I went up into the attic and I had a peer in, and I thought, oh, I know what it is. It's the bullcock. It's the bullcock in the water tank. Something's gone wrong with it. And I was rather hoping that it was a simple thing and not a whole change of the bullcock, because in my little two up, two down house, they've got this enormous tank in a tiny little alcove in this tiny little space above the bathroom. So this is where you have to sort of slither in, and you get in there and you can't get to the tank. You have to put your hand over like this and try and fiddle around. God knows why they did this, a massive tank in this tiny sloping area, but they did. Anyway, it's gone before, you see, and I have actually, with the help of a friend, managed to replace this bullcock. But this time I couldn't work out what was going on. In the end, I managed to get to a point where I could just peer over, and I saw that there was a plastic attachment in a little spout bit. It's difficult to explain if you're not a plumber, that had dropped off into the tank, and the water, when it was on and you were emptying this tank by filling the bath effectively, but through the hot water tank, if you get my meaning, the water was going up like that, like a fountain, and for some reason then, of course, would just cascade over the top and down into the thing. So I managed to fish this thing out very carefully, and I got it, and I bunged it on the side, and it was too late. I said, you know what, I'm just going to turn the water off, go to bed and do it in the morning, which is what I've done this morning. And I have, I think, fingers crossed, now managed to put this little thing back on. But these things are here to try you, aren't they? And I think I've fixed it, so I haven't had this great expense. But many people can't fix these things. They're in a panic. They have to call somebody in, a plumber late at night, and go, oh, what is it? And it may be something as simple as this, but very difficult to get to. Or it may be something a lot more involved and costly. And we all then have to go out and try and earn some money. And it's all a difficulty, isn't it? And it made me think this morning, why is it, what are we going through? What's this about? What is life all about? And then I remembered a Dave Allen sketch. He was an Irish comedian back in the 70s. I don't know if you remember him. I mentioned him in a video not so long ago about the council tax, because I think in the 90s he did one in about 93, and the council tax had just come in. Well, before that he was doing all sorts of interesting jokes. And one was one about how we are governed by time all the time. Everything is set by time in this life. And I thought, I found it on the Wikipedia site about him, because apparently it got him into trouble. And I just thought I would read you this, because the two things I think are connected. So he's talking about time and about clocks, because I can't do it the way he does it, but he says, you know, you wake up to the clock, you go to work to the clock, you clock into the clock, you clock out to the clock, you come home to the clock, you eat to the clock, you drink to the clock, you go to bed to the clock, you get up to the clock, you go back to work to the clock, and you do that for 40 years of your life. And then when you retire, what do they give you? They give you a effing clock, because he used the proper word and got into trouble. But it's so true, isn't it? We are so time conscious and we do things so rigidly in our life, and we spend this time going to work just so that we can have a few luxuries in our life. And it started to make me think, you know, what with the problem up in the water and a few things going on, the bailiffs knocking on your door, and sometimes, you know, the car won't start and things break down, and you have to go out and try and earn some money, or you're constantly paying the mortgage, or the somehow the government puts up the prices of things, or the inflation goes on. And you just think life is one great big battle, isn't it? And we're slavishly trying to go against it. And yet, I often think this is a bit odd. Why in the 21st century have we got to that point where it is such a battle? I remember Tomorrow's World, a TV programme of the 70s that said everything would be rosy around about now, that we wouldn't have to work, that things would be a bit more easier. I think they were sort of talking about an autonomous world, but actually I'm very pleased that's not happened with robots, although that does seem to be what people are thinking. To me, ultimately, I think that where we've gone wrong, if you like, is that we've fallen into this subservient debt-based society with an inflationary currency, with this fiat currency, in which bankers, money lenders, have kept us on this treadmill to continually have to buy things, continually have to have new things, continually getting us to keep up with the Joneses and to have more and more. And so we've had to work harder. And when these accidents happen, or these sort of mishaps happen, burst water main and car doesn't start, whatever it is, that we panic, and then we end up having to get into more debt to fix those unless we're able to do it ourselves. And in many ways, we just lost our community, haven't we? We've lost our friends and our families. They're too spread out. We've lost the sense that you could knock on somebody's door and say, oh, excuse me, look, I've got this water leak. Could you help me? Could you hold the ladder whilst I go up into the loft? Unless we're resilient and able to do these things, everything is out there for money. Everything is out there as a contract for somebody else to help us. And it just seems that we've lost the ability to thrive. I often think back to the times of the Neolithic people and the Bronze Age people in their Iron Age hill forts. Well, the Bronze Age people wouldn't have been in the Iron Age hill forts, but you know where I'm going. The Iron Age people in their hill forts, in these communities where people were around to help each other, and life was simple. They all they needed was to be able to grow food, raise their cattle, and spend time with one another. It does seem to me that this treadmill that we're on, this constantly having to buy the latest technology just so that we can amuse ourselves or that we can work harder, it seems to take us away from the fact that we do all this by the clock in the morning, get up, go there, do that, do the other, so that we can have few moments in our lives of peace, that we could go on holiday or have the weekend in which to fix a few things around the house. It just strikes me that this modern world that we're in has been fashioned, if you like, to keep us working to fix the problems, instead of like these Iron Age people who would have had very much more simple things: raise some food, grow food, raise some cattle, look after their family, fix their house, enjoy the weather, enjoy each other, dance, sing, have fun, thrive. That's really what it comes down to. That's really what I'm talking about. We've lost the time and the ability to be with our friends and family and to thrive. And maybe we need to think again about what kind of world we really want.